At 3 a.m., the silence in our suburban cul-de-sac was shattered by the abrupt rattling of our front door. I was jolted awake by the metallic echo, unsure if it had been part of a dream or something more serious. A moment later, the sound of footsteps on our porch confirmed my worst suspicion: someone was out there. Still groggy but on alert, I reached for my phone and crept quietly to the window overlooking the front yard. The motion sensor light had kicked on, casting a stark glow on a man who looked out of place, dressed in what appeared to be a cheap, half-buttoned security uniform and holding a clipboard in one hand and a flashlight in the other. I squinted, trying to make out any identifying marks, badges, patches, anything official, but there was nothing. He wasn't from any company I recognized. He knocked again, this time louder, more impatient. Then he shouted, "Open up. HOA inspection. There's been a complaint about violations on your property." His voice was too aggressive, too forceful, like someone who wanted to sound in control but wasn't used to authority. There was no way this was legitimate. First of all, our HOA doesn't conduct inspections at night, certainly not at 3 a.m. Second, I had attended the last community meeting, and there had been zero mention of any property violations. My gut told me something was very wrong. I reached for the baseball bat under the bed as a precaution, but the moment I turned back toward the door, I heard the unmistakable crack of the door frame splintering. He'd kicked it in. Just like that, he was inside. Now wide awake and surging with adrenaline, I shouted for my son upstairs. My 17-year-old, Nate, had been asleep in his room. But what the intruder didn't know was that Nate wasn't an ordinary teenager. For the past year, Nate had been training 3 times a week with my brother-in-law, a former Navy SEAL. It wasn't just basic self-defense or some backyard karate. Nate had been pushed to learn advanced hand-to-hand combat, situational awareness, and even tactical response drills that most civilians wouldn't dream of trying. What had started as a way to boost his confidence after a bullying incident had turned into a serious commitment. Nate had taken to it like a fish to water. The moment I called his name, I heard him leap out of bed. The intruder had made it into our foyer, and for a second, he seemed surprised to find more resistance than he expected. His eyes locked with mine as he tried to bark out some excuse, saying something about an emergency compliance check, but he was fumbling. His hands were empty now. He dropped the clipboard, but his body language was tense, like someone ready to pounce or run, depending on how the next few seconds played out. That's when Nate appeared at the top of the stairs, barefoot and shirtless, but calm and focused like he was stepping into a drill. He didn't hesitate. He didn't ask questions. He scanned the scene in a second, noting the broken door, the man's posture, and my stance. Then he moved. Fast. I barely had time to warn him. The fake HOA guy didn't expect a teenager to charge him. He raised his arms as if to block or shove Nate away, but Nate ducked, twisted, and executed a takedown I had only seen in action movies. He got the guy off balance, grabbed his wrist, and flipped him down onto the hardwood floor with a satisfying thud. In the scramble, the man tried to reach into his pocket, maybe for a weapon, but Nate was already 2 steps ahead. He pinned the man's arm behind his back and knelt with his weight perfectly distributed, locking the guy in place. I joined Nate seconds later, grabbing the man's other arm and yanking it away from his waistband. No weapon, but a suspicious-looking multi-tool and a folded knife fell out. The guy started yelling, claiming we were assaulting him, that we were in violation of federal property law, whatever that meant. But his voice cracked. He was panicking now, completely exposed. I took his phone and checked the screen. No HOA apps, no official emails, no correspondence. Just random messages and searches. Nate stood over him, breathing steadily but not gloating. Just alert, like he had drilled to be. We called the police. It took them under 10 minutes to arrive, and when they did, they were equally baffled but impressed. Turns out, this wasn't the first time someone had pulled a fake HOA compliance, scam to gain access to homes in the area. But it was the first time someone fought back, and won. The man was arrested on multiple charges, including breaking and entering, impersonation, and possession of burglary tools. One of the officers looked at Nate, then at me, and asked if he had law enforcement training. I told them about the Navy SEAL training, and the officer simply nodded and said, "Kids got instincts." Saved your house. After everything settled and the police left, we sat together in the kitchen, our front door now temporarily reinforced with plywood and locks. Nate wasn't shaking. He wasn't even bragging. He just sipped a bottle of water, eyes still focused, like he was replaying every move in his head to critique it. "Uncle Dan's gonna want to hear about this," he said with a slight smile. I looked at him with a mixture of pride and awe. The reality of what could have happened hit me like a wave. If we hadn't trained him. If we'd been caught completely off guard. If the man had been armed. But we weren't victims. Not this time. The neighborhood later buzzed with the news. People came by to thank us, to ask questions, to find out how they could protect their own homes better. I told them to look into real training. To stop assuming that their porch cameras and Ring doorbells were enough. And I pointed to Nate, who had already gone back upstairs to finish the sleep he'd earned. The fake HOA cop picked the wrong house. And he had no idea that behind that door was a kid who trains like a soldier. He didn't knock. The sound that jolted us awake at 3 a.m. was unmistakably the splintering of wood. A crash, a thud, and then the deep echo of our front door being kicked in like a battering ram. I leapt from bed instantly, my heart jackhammering in my chest, instinct screaming before logic could form. Down the hall, I heard my son's door fly open. Alex, 17, lean but strong, was already moving. He trains 3 days a week with Gabe, a former Navy SEAL who lives 3 blocks over. It started as a summer fitness plan, something to help with confidence and discipline, but over the last year it's evolved into something far deeper. Gabe doesn't just teach him workouts. He teaches tactics, situational awareness, how to respond, not react. By the time I reached the hallway, Alex was already at the top of the stairs, crouched low. He signaled to me with 2 fingers. One intruder, front door. We could hear footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Whoever it was, they weren't expecting resistance. The man's voice was loud and fake friendly. "This is the HOA safety inspection. Step out so we can check the premises." His tone was casual, almost bored. No authority. No real fear of being challenged. But this wasn't someone in uniform. No clipboard. No reflective vest. Just a man in dark clothing with a cheap security badge, the kind you could order online. His face was partially obscured under a baseball cap, and he held a flashlight, not even pointed forward, just loosely in his grip. Alex moved like I hadn't seen before, quiet, calculating. He slipped down the second set of stairs off the side hallway, barefoot but balanced, keeping low to avoid creaky steps. Gabe's training had drilled this into him. Control your breathing, anticipate your opponent's movement, use the layout of your home. I stayed back, dialing 911, whispering into the phone, "Intruder. Home invasion. Armed teen. Self-defense training. Please hurry." The dispatcher's voice was calm, but I could tell the urgency was received loud and clear. Meanwhile, the fake HOA cop was walking deeper into the house, sweeping the flashlight lazily across the furniture. He paused, examining the family photos by the staircase. He wasn't looking for violations. He was casing the place, checking for valuables, layout, possible exits. Then he turned toward the hallway that led to the kitchen, and Alex made his move. From behind the kitchen island, Alex emerged like a ghost, fast and controlled. He didn't say a word, just advanced with a stance that immediately put the man on edge. "Whoa, kid. Take it easy," the guy muttered, raising his hands slightly. "Just an inspection. You're not with the HOA," Alex said firmly. There was steel in his voice, Nothing like the usual teenager tone. It stopped the man cold. "I'm gonna need you to leave right now," Alex continued, moving into a better angle, between the intruder and the back door, cutting off a clean escape. The guy didn't like that. He reached into his jacket. Alex was faster. He didn't need a weapon. He closed the distance in 3 steps, knocked the flashlight from the man's hand with a quick upward strike, and used a maneuver Gabe taught him called the frame and dump. A shoulder into the chest, shift of the hips, and down went the intruder, hard, onto the tiled kitchen floor. I came running, cordless phone still in my hand, as Alex planted a knee into the guy's back and pinned his arms with smooth precision. He might have a weapon, Alex warned without taking his eyes off him. I nudged the man's jacket open with my foot. Sure enough. No gun, but a tactical knife was strapped inside. Cops showed up 6 minutes later, longest 6 minutes of my life. They came in with weapons drawn until they saw Alex, calmly holding position like he'd done it a dozen times. They shouted commands. He stood, raised his hands, and backed away exactly as trained. The man on the floor tried to protest, saying something about a misunderstanding, but the cops weren't buying it. No ID, no HOA paperwork, just a burner phone and lockpicking tools in his backpack. Later that night, while the police took statements and the guy was cuffed in the back of a squad car, one officer quietly pulled Alex aside. "You did good, kid. Most people freeze. You moved like a pro." Alex didn't smile. He just nodded. The adrenaline hadn't worn off. He was still breathing in that slow, steady rhythm Gabe taught him. After they left, I sat with him in the living room. I didn't know what to say at first. "I wasn't scared," he said finally. I believed him. "You could have hurt him worse," I murmured. "Didn't need to," he replied, eyes focused on the spot where the man had stood. "Gabe says control is everything. Control your space, your emotions, the outcome." That guy didn't know what he was walking into. He really didn't. He thought we were just another quiet suburban house. That he could walk in, take what he wanted, maybe worse. But he didn't know that a 17-year-old kid had spent the last year preparing for a moment just like this, not in fear, but with purpose. Not to be a hero, but to be ready. That night changed something in both of us. We reinforced the doors, got better outdoor lighting, started neighborhood watch talks. But more than that, we understood what preparedness really means. Not paranoia. Readiness. Not aggression. Discipline. The fake HOA cop picked the wrong house. And my son. He proved he's more than ready.